Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing great today. Today, I'm really excited to share something special with you all. It's about my recent visit to Istanbul, one of the most beautiful and historic cities in the world. Have you ever heard of Istanbul? It's a city that sits between two continents, Europe and Asia. Istanbul is famous for its amazing history, beautiful buildings, and delicious food. Istanbul is a place where old traditions meet modern life. It's a city full of surprises. There's so much to see and do in Istanbul that you could spend weeks exploring and still find something new every day. In this video, I'll be sharing everything about my trip, from the famous landmarks I visited to the delicious food I tried, and the incredible experiences I had. I'll also tell you about the challenges I faced and how I solved them. So, whether you're planning to visit Istanbul or just curious about the city, I hope you'll enjoy hearing about my journey. Istanbul really stole my heart, and I'm so excited to tell you all about it. So, sit back, relax, and let me take you on a tour of one of the most amazing cities in the world. Planning my trip to Istanbul was very exciting. I had always wanted to visit this city because I had heard so many good things about it. When I decided to go, I knew I had to plan everything carefully. The first thing I did was decide when to go. I looked at the weather and decided it was best to visit in the spring. The weather is warm but not too hot, and it's perfect for walking around and exploring the city. Next, I booked my flight. I looked at different airlines and found a good deal on a ticket. I was so excited when I finally bought my plane ticket. It felt real. After that, I had to find a place to stay. I searched for hotels near the city center so I could be close to the main attractions. I found a nice hotel with good reviews and booked a room for the week. I also started making a list of places I wanted to visit in Istanbul. There are so many famous landmarks, like the Hagia Sophia, the Blue Mosque, and Topkapi Palace. I made sure to write down the places I didn't want to miss. Packing was another important part of the planning. I made a list of everything I would need. I packed comfortable clothes because I knew I would be walking a lot. I also packed a camera to take lots of pictures. And of course, I made sure I had my passport and travel documents. As the trip got closer, I became even more excited. I couldn't wait to see the beautiful city and experience all it had to offer. The planning was fun, but I knew that the real adventure would begin once I arrived in Istanbul. When I finally arrived in Istanbul, I was so happy. The flight was long, but I was excited to explore the city. When I got off the plane, the first thing I noticed was the warm air. The weather was perfect, bright and sunny, just like I hoped. The airport was big and busy. I saw people from many different countries, and I could hear many languages being spoken. I followed the signs to get my luggage, and then I took a taxi to my hotel. The taxi ride was interesting because I got to see parts of the city as we drove. The buildings were beautiful, and I saw many people walking on the streets. When I arrived at the hotel, I was very tired from the flight, but I couldn't wait to start exploring. I quickly checked in, and the staff at the hotel were very friendly. They gave me a map of Istanbul and told me about some nearby places to visit. After I put my things in my room, I decided to go out and explore. I didn't want to waste any time. I walked around the area near my hotel. The streets were full of life. There were people shopping, talking, and walking. I could see the Bosphorus, the famous waterway in Istanbul, in the distance. I also smelled some delicious food being cooked on the streets. It made me even more excited to try the food. Istanbul felt so different from my home, but it was very exciting. I couldn't wait to see more and start my adventure in this amazing city. Istanbul is a city full of history and beautiful places to visit. During my trip, I made sure to visit some of the most famous landmarks in the city. Let me tell you about them. The first place I visited was Hagia Sophia. It is one of the most famous buildings in Istanbul, and I had heard so much about it. When I arrived, I was amazed by how big it was. The building has a beautiful, huge dome and many old beautiful paintings inside. It used to be a church, then a mosque, and now it's a museum. The inside of the Hagia Sophia was very peaceful, and I loved looking at the old art on the walls. It was so impressive to be inside such a historic place. Next, I went to the Blue Mosque, which is just across from the Hagia Sophia. The Blue Mosque is famous for its beautiful blue tiles that cover the walls inside. The mosque is still a place where people pray, so I had to be respectful and stay quiet. I took off my shoes before entering and made sure to dress modestly. The inside of the Blue Mosque was so beautiful. The light coming from the big windows made the blue tiles shine. I was amazed by how peaceful and beautiful the mosque was. After visiting the Blue Mosque, I walked to Topkapi Palace, which was the home of the Ottoman sultans many years ago. The palace is huge, with beautiful gardens and rooms filled with amazing treasures. Inside, I saw old clothes, jewelry, and even swords that belonged to the sultans. There were also some beautiful paintings and many interesting things to learn about. The palace had a great view of the Bosphorus, so I spent some time just looking at the water and the ships. Another place I visited was the Basilica Cistern. This place was so cool. It is an underground water storage place built many years ago. The cistern was very dark and mysterious, and there were beautiful old columns all around. I walked carefully because the ground was a little slippery, but the atmosphere was amazing. It was very quiet and calm inside, and I felt like I was walking through history. Istanbul is also known for the Grand Bazaar, one of the oldest and biggest markets in the world. When I entered the Grand Bazaar, I couldn't believe how big it was. There were so many shops selling all kinds of things: clothes, jewelry, spices, and carpets. The market is very busy, with people everywhere. I had a great time looking at all the colorful things and even bought a few souvenirs for my family. The shopkeepers were very friendly and tried to help me find the best things to buy. It was a fun experience. While I was exploring the city, I also walked along the Bosphorus, the waterway that separates Europe and Asia. It was so beautiful, and the view of the water and the ships was amazing. I took a boat ride along the Bosphorus, which was one of the highlights of my trip. From the boat, I could see both the European and Asian sides of Istanbul. It was so cool to be on a boat in the middle of two continents. I also saw some beautiful old houses along the water, and the sunset made everything look even more beautiful. I also visited Galata Tower, a tall tower in the city that offers a great view of Istanbul. I went up to the top of the tower and looked out at the whole city. I could see the Bosphorus, the Golden Horn, and all the famous buildings in Istanbul. It was amazing to see everything from above. During my visit, I also tried Turkish tea and street food. Turkish tea is very popular, and I enjoyed drinking it while sitting in small cafes. I also tried simit, a delicious bread covered with sesame seeds. It's a very common snack in Istanbul. I also ate doner, a kind of kebab, and baklava, a sweet dessert made of thin layers of dough and honey. The food in Istanbul was so tasty, and I loved trying new things. Istanbul is a city that offers something for everyone: history, beautiful landmarks, great food, and amazing views. I had an unforgettable time exploring the city and seeing these famous places. Every landmark I visited made me appreciate the history and culture of Istanbul even more. One of the best parts of my trip to Istanbul was trying all the delicious food. Turkish food is famous all over the world, and I was excited to taste everything. Let me tell you about some of the amazing dishes I tried. First, I tried kebabs, which are grilled meat, usually served with rice or bread. There are many different types of kebabs, and they are all so tasty. I tried shish kebab, which is made with small pieces of meat on a skewer, and Adana kebab, which is a spicier version. Both were delicious, and the meat was so tender and full of flavor. I also had a chance to try baklava, a sweet dessert made of thin layers of pastry, filled with nuts and sweet syrup. Baklava is one of the most famous Turkish desserts, and it was so delicious. The sweet syrup and the crunchy nuts inside made every bite special. I had it with a cup of Turkish tea, which is strong and very sweet. It was the perfect way to end a meal. Another food I tried was simit, a round bread covered with sesame seeds. It's like a Turkish bagel, and it's often sold by street vendors. I ate it with a little bit of cheese, and it was really tasty. People in Istanbul eat simit all the time, especially for breakfast or as a snack. It was simple, but very yummy. In Istanbul, I also tried doner, which is a type of kebab served in a wrap with vegetables and sauces. It was very popular, and I saw many people eating it on the streets. I enjoyed it with some yogurt and salad, which made it fresh and delicious. One day I visited a food market and I saw so many fresh fruits, vegetables and spices. I tried a small snack called börek, which is a pastry filled with cheese or meat. It was crispy on the outside and soft inside. It was so good, and I could taste the spices that made it special. The food in Istanbul is amazing, and I loved trying everything. The flavors were so different from the food I usually eat, and I couldn't get enough of the Turkish dishes. If you ever visit Istanbul, make sure to try these foods. They are part of the city's culture and will make your trip even more special. During my trip to Istanbul, I also had the chance to experience the culture of Turkey. Turkish culture is very rich and interesting, and I was excited to learn more about it. One of the first cultural experiences I had was visiting a Turkish bath, or hammam. It was a unique experience. The hammam is a traditional Turkish bath, where people go to relax and clean their bodies. The inside of the hammam was very beautiful, with big marble floors and warm steam everywhere. I lay down on a big stone table and enjoyed the warm water. It was so relaxing, and I felt very calm after my visit. The hammam is an important part of Turkish culture, and it was amazing to try it for myself. I also learned a lot about Turkish music and dance. I saw a live performance of whirling dervishes, which is a traditional Turkish dance. The dancers spun around in circles, and it was so beautiful to watch. The music was soft and calming, and it made the dance even more special. I was amazed by how the dancers could spin for so long without getting dizzy. It was a beautiful part of Turkish culture that I will always remember. In the streets of Istanbul, I also saw many street performers. Some of them played music, while others danced or made art. It was fun to watch them and see how they shared their talents with people. I even stopped to watch a man who was making sand art. He created beautiful pictures in the sand using only his hands. It was amazing to see such creative work on the streets. Another way I experienced Turkish culture was by meeting the local people. The people in Istanbul are very friendly and welcoming. I had some great conversations with locals, and they were always happy to help me when I had questions. I also learned about their daily lives and how they live in such a busy city. It was so nice to connect with the people of Istanbul and learn about their culture. Experiencing the culture of Istanbul made my trip even more special. I loved learning about the traditions, art, and music of the city. If you ever visit Istanbul, I would definitely recommend experiencing the local culture. It will make your trip more interesting and unforgettable. Even though my trip to Istanbul was amazing, there were a few small challenges I had to face. But these challenges didn't ruin my experience. They made the trip more exciting. One of the challenges was the language barrier. Most people in Istanbul speak Turkish, and I don't speak it very well. Sometimes I had trouble understanding what people were saying, but I learned a few Turkish words like merhaba, hello, and teşekkür ederim, thank you. When I didn't understand something, I just smiled and tried to communicate with simple words or gestures. The people in Istanbul were very kind and patient, so I never felt lost. Another challenge was getting lost while walking around the city. Istanbul is very big, and sometimes the streets can look the same. Once I took the wrong turn and ended up somewhere I didn't recognize, but I didn't panic. I asked for help, and the locals pointed me in the right direction. It was a little scary, but it was also a fun part of the adventure. Even though there were a few challenges, I enjoyed every moment of my trip. They made my experience more interesting and helped me learn new things. When I wasn't exploring the famous landmarks in Istanbul, I also took time to relax and enjoy the peaceful parts of the city. Istanbul is not just about big attractions and busy streets. It has many places where you can sit back and enjoy the moment. One of my favorite things to do was spend time in the parks. There are many beautiful parks in Istanbul where you can walk around or sit and enjoy nature. I visited Gülhane Park, which is near Topkapi Palace. It was a quiet place with many trees, flowers, and green areas. I walked around and felt calm and peaceful. I even saw some people having picnics with their families. It was so nice to see how people spend time together in the park, enjoying the weather. I also spent some time in a cafe. Turkish cafes are special because they often serve Turkish tea or Turkish coffee. I sat at a small cafe near the Bosphorus and enjoyed a cup of tea while looking at the water. The view was amazing, and the tea was so relaxing. Turkish cafes are a great place to watch people, read a book, or just take a break from exploring. One of the best ways to enjoy Istanbul is by taking a boat ride on the Bosphorus. The Bosphorus is the waterway that divides Istanbul into two parts, Europe and Asia. I went on a boat tour, and it was so beautiful. From the boat, I could see both sides of the city. I also saw many old houses along the water.